like a cat can't help catching mice, like human beings can't help but like you can't help being a scientist, or you need to find out things and explore and make sense and make meaning, and this is kind of an inherent human aspect. But my kind of hope is that by being more self-conscious and saying, okay, listen, this is what we are, and then we've got to work within that scope, then maybe there's some resolution or something. It literally, it's just the beginning of an idea. It's not like I haven't got like a big manifesto, but I was wondering, like, within that context, especially, thinking about rising sea levels, and I can't believe there's a debate about climate change, but apparently there is. I don't know. It's a bit crazy, really. Then like, what? I mean, I was wondering if you got any thoughts about that at all. Does that make any sense at all?
Sorry, say it again.
I was wondering if that makes any sense at all.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. But the funny thing is that it's not that we're stupid apes; it's that we're too clever by half, aren't we? We actually use our brains in ways that are self-destructive to ourselves. If you think about climate change, we have humans as a species have entire domination of the planet because we've been able to convert almost anything around us to our own needs. And every other species would do the exact same thing if it could, but they don't have those abilities and so on. So I don't think humans are uniquely, for example, egotistical, but I think that their egotism is able to dominate the planet. And as much as we might want to think consciously about saving the planet that is actually keeping us alive, actually saving the planet is wrong because it's saving ourselves. The planet will be fine without us, right? But we humans have, and this is a class that I'm teaching right now, so it's kind of an interesting question. We humans have a difficulty cooperating with each other across an anonymity. So if you and I are living in a small community, we have a commons, let's say, that's the expression, and we can maintain our commons, whether it's the fishery or the field or even keeping garbage off the ground. We can maintain that because of our personal connections. When it comes to having this kind of resource management or this type of environmental protection or this type of ecological consciousness on a large scale, it becomes harder. And it's so hard that climate change is happening because we can't figure out how to fix this problem. So I think what we've done is we've managed to get bigger and bigger and bigger and more successful in terms of inhabiting the planet and dominating ecosystems to the point where we're actually killing ourselves off. And if you look at a much smaller example that we're kind of familiar with, you can talk about how a fish might foul its own fish tank, or how the foxes might eat all the rabbits, and then there's a population collapse. We end up doing this to ourselves. So this is, I think, everybody's calling me right now. This is, I think, an issue that is not unique to humans, but we have screwed up at a larger scale than any other species.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that with modern ways of living and modern technology, we are like separated from like the physical, like I don't know, from the physical situation, but because the because the world is very complicated and there are many people, and also and the nets of the way we move resources around the world are basically impossible to understand as a consumer. Like the link towards buying something and then actually where it came from is that there basically is no link. People don't make that connection. I was wondering if I don't know. Do you think that is at all related to the problem or not, or do you think it's, I don't know, what do you think?
Absolutely. No, I think it's related to the problem. I mean, you mentioned earlier consumption, right? We consume so many things, and the cheaper things get, the more we consume. This is just a basic economic fact. And the Brits started it with the Industrial Revolution, but everybody else in the world loves this idea. So, but we have a very weak understanding about the cost of our consumption, either in terms of the resources or the impacts of production or the impacts of consumption, right? The pollution and so on. And I think if people knew where their food was grown and they knew how a television set was made and so on, I mean, there's a lot of knowledge there, so you can't really ask infinite knowledge of people. But if they had a better understanding and a better kind of, let's say, better understanding, a better appreciation for the cost of what they were doing, they wouldn't necessarily, for example, get a phone and use it for 2 years and then throw it away. So there's something there that we lack in terms of knowledge and in terms of markets. This is called a market failure, it's almost impossible to resolve this problem given human systems. I can't even say, I can't blame it on markets. I can't blame it on capitalism. It's really a human thing. And to go the other direction, to try and get people to appreciate everything and make everything within 10 kilometers of their house and so on, requires the people in the wealthiest parts of the world, and even the poor people in the world, stepping away from a lot of pleasures that they enjoy. And they personally don't want to do it. And so the result is that all of us suffer from these pollutions and these problems of overexploitation. The most obvious thing is we shouldn't be having nearly as many babies as we have. And if you tell somebody, don't have a baby, there's too many babies, they say, oh no, but my baby is going to be amazing. Those people shouldn't have babies. And here we are, we're going to be, the projections now are 9.7 billion in 2050. And it's not like the 7 billion, the other 2.7 billion are going to fix things. They're just going to make things worse. So, until you get people to start saying, I agree, I'm not going to have babies because humanity needs that, you're not going to even have a start at the bigger conversation. And that's brutal. That's just not going to happen as far as I can tell.